The mind rarely breaks all at once. It happens slowly. A thought stays longer than it should. A small failure feels heavier than it used to. You wake up tired, not because your body lacks rest, but because your mind has spent weeks fighting battles no one else can see. And eventually, without realizing it, you begin treating your own thoughts like enemies. You try to control everything. Your emotions, your future, people's opinions, outcomes that have not even happened yet. And the stranger part is this: the harder you try to control your inner world, the more chaotic it becomes. You tell yourself to stop overthinking, yet the thoughts grow louder. You force yourself to feel confident, yet insecurity tightens its grip. You chase peace like it is something waiting somewhere in the future, while your mind turns the present moment into a constant conflict with discomfort. Most people spend their entire lives trapped inside this invisible struggle, not because life is cruel, but because they never realize the fight itself is the source of suffering. The Stoics understood something that modern life keeps teaching people to ignore. A disturbed mind cannot find peace by controlling reality. It only finds peace by understanding it. And once you truly understand this, something unsettling begins to happen. You start noticing how much of your pain was never created by life itself. It was created by resistance. Resistance to uncertainty. Resistance to discomfort. Resistance to imperfection. Resistance to emotions you believed should not exist. The human mind has a habit of turning temporary experiences into permanent identities. You feel anxious once and suddenly you become an anxious person. You experience rejection and now your worth feels questioned. You fail at something important and your mind quietly begins constructing a story that says you are falling behind in life. But none of those moments were the real problem. The problem was the meaning attached to them. Because once the mind labels an experience as dangerous, it starts organizing your entire life around avoiding it. And this is where people unknowingly lose themselves. Not in tragedy, not in failure, but in the endless attempt to escape discomfort. Look closely at modern life and you will see it everywhere. People constantly distracting themselves because silence forces them to confront their own thoughts. People chasing validation because they cannot generate self-worth internally. People obsessing over success because they secretly believe achievement will finally silence their insecurity. But insecurity does not disappear when you achieve more. It adapts. That is the trap. The mind always moves the finish line. You think peace will arrive once life becomes stable, once money increases, once people admire you, once your future feels guaranteed. Yet every achievement creates another fear. Fear of losing it. Fear of not being enough anymore. Fear that even after reaching the goal, emptiness still remains. And for many people, that realization becomes terrifying because it forces them to confront a possibility they spent years avoiding. What if the thing you are chasing was never capable of saving you? Marcus Aurelius wrote something deeply unsettling when he said that the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Think about that carefully. Your mind slowly becomes shaped by what it repeatedly focuses on. If your attention constantly lives in comparison, your identity becomes rooted in inadequacy. If your attention constantly lives in fear, your body begins treating ordinary life like a threat. If your attention constantly searches for external approval, you eventually lose the ability to recognize your own value without permission from others. This is why some people achieve everything they once wanted and still feel empty afterward. Because external success cannot repair an internal relationship built on self-rejection. And most people never notice how deeply this pattern controls them. They believe they are pursuing happiness, but often they are simply trying to escape themselves. That is why even moments of rest feel uncomfortable. Because when distraction disappears, unresolved thoughts return, and suddenly the mind begins whispering things it kept buried beneath productivity and noise. You are behind. You are wasting time. You are not enough. You should be doing more. You should already have your life figured out. The frightening part is not hearing these thoughts. The frightening part is believing them without question. Stoicism challenges this entire pattern, not by teaching emotional suppression, not by pretending pain does not exist, but by forcing you to examine the relationship between events and interpretation. Epictetus said that people are disturbed not by things, but by the view they take of them. At first that sounds simple, almost too simple. But if you observe your own mind honestly, you begin seeing how true it is. Two people experience the same failure. One sees humiliation, the other sees instruction. Two people experience uncertainty. One experiences panic, the other experiences possibility. The event itself is neutral, meaning is assigned afterward. And once you understand this, a dangerous illusion begins collapsing. The illusion that peace can only exist when life becomes perfect, because perfection was never the requirement. Awareness was. The Stoics understood that suffering intensifies the moment you start arguing with reality. You lose something important and immediately think this should not be happening. You feel sadness and instantly resist it. You experience fear and begin fearing the fear itself. This creates a second layer of suffering. The original emotion may have been temporary, but resistance prolongs it. Imagine holding a glass of water in your hand. The glass itself is not heavy at first, but the longer you hold it, the heavier it becomes. Thoughts work the same way. A painful moment is manageable. Constant mental attachment is what exhausts you. And most people are mentally holding experiences long after life has already moved on. An old embarrassment, an old rejection, an old version of themselves they cannot forgive. The body exists in the present, but the mind keeps replaying psychological ghosts from the past. This is why inner peace feels distant for so many people. Not because peace is impossible, but because attention is constantly trapped somewhere else. In regret, in anticipation, in comparison, in imagined futures that do not exist yet. The Stoics believed freedom begins the moment you stop demanding certainty from life. Because certainty was never promised. Control was never promised. Tomorrow was never promised. And strangely, accepting this does not weaken a person. It strengthens them. Because now energy is no longer wasted fighting reality itself. It becomes redirected towards something far more important. Clarity. The clarity to observe thoughts without obeying them. The clarity to experience emotion without becoming consumed by it. The clarity to pursue goals without attaching identity to outcomes. And this is where the real transformation begins. Not when life changes externally, but when your relationship with your own mind begins changing internally. For most of your life, you may have believed strength meant control. Control over emotions, control over outcomes, control over uncertainty. But real strength is something far quieter than that. Real strength is remaining steady while uncertainty exists. And most people never learn this, because they spend their lives trying to escape discomfort instead of understanding it.